kids out of the pool for Adult Swim. All kids out.
Adult Swim has been around for 20 years now, having some of the greatest shows and characters of all time. I mean, things like Aqua, Rick and Morty, Boondocks, Squidbellies, the list goes on. And there's so many countless shows. But what people may not realize is they actually make video games as well. And they have been since like the PS2 days. It's kind of crazy. Some of their more modern games have been more popular. Virtual Rick-ality, things like that have been around. But today I want to take a look at all of the Adult Swim games so far.
Ooh, yeah! Can do!
Starting us out is 2017's Virtual Rick-ality. Now, this came out on PS4, later came out on Oculus, and on other VR headsets as well. As the title would suggest, obviously, it's a VR game. It's a headset game. It's like a point-and-click adventure with our favorite characters, Rick and Morty. It's got all the original voice cast, and it's got the writers, Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon, are involved in this game heavily. And it's kind of a cool one. I've played this one. It's fan service a lot. It's novelty stuff. I'm not a huge VR gamer, but I enjoyed my time with this one. Like I said, it has all the voice actors and the funniness, and the writing is there. It's funny. It's a fun little thing. It's not like a full game to me personally. It's like a point-and-click adventure, kind of. You pick things up, you look at them, things like that. It's funny. It's not bad. I enjoyed it, my time with it, but it's not one I go back and play very often. But I do love Rick and Morty, so I recommend it to any Rick and Morty fan.
Like, what else do you actually do in this game? You might be asking yourself, what else does this game have to offer? Well, it's got one of these things in it.
Next up is Aqua Teen Hunger Force Zombie Ninja Pro-Am. And this game is for the PS2. It came out in 2007, and it is off the rails. As you guys can imagine, it's got all the voice acting crew, all the writers from Aqua Teen back in the day, which was one of my all-time favorite shows. It's absolutely hilarious. It plays out kind of like a movie, kind of like an episode of the show, but with golf mixed in. Of all things for an Aqua Teen Hunger Force game to be a golf game is hilarious to me, because it's just so out there. But on top of that, it has like these fighting sequences. You run to your ball, and it's like a beat 'em up along the way. So it's like a beat 'em up golf game with Aqua Teen characters. It's something. It's really actually pretty funny. The gameplay isn't that great. The golf obviously isn't all that great, but that's not why you came to this video game. You came to this video game because it's funny, you're a fan of the show, and it's actually not that bad. It's actually pretty funny. It has some funny moments, and I actually had a good time playing this one. If you're a fan of the show, again, highly recommend checking this one out.
You can switch between master shake or cry lock that by pressing the indicated button.
Hammer, rock, an angry shake.
Next up is the Harvey Birdman Attorney at Law game, and this came out in 2008 for the PS2, Nintendo Wii, and the PSP of all things. And it's actually developed by Capcom, published by Adult Swim Games. And as being a Capcom game, it's very, very similar to the Ace Attorney series. It's basically just a ripoff of Ace Attorney with the Harvey Birdman characters, and it's a pretty funny plot line. I've actually owned this one, and I've played it through a few times. It's really funny. I mean, the dialogue is really well done. Again, the voice crew is here, and the writing is solid. And like, if you like Ace Attorney games, this one is gonna be right up your alley, because it's actually pretty strong gameplay if you're into that type of thing. You know, learning things, trying to figure out keys, puzzles together, figure out how to solve this mystery, solve this crime by proving things. And it's all done in a hilarious way. If you're a fan of the show, I highly recommend picking up a copy of this and giving it a try. It's actually pretty cheap as well.
Gentlemen, sure, my client appears to be a callous, privileged, sticky mess of a hippo, but he is also guilty of cooking weenies over my burning house and consuming large quantities of alcohol, all while dancing naked with tribal drums.
Next up is 2020's Samurai Jack Battle Through Time, and this came out on the PS4 and the Nintendo Switch. And it's actually a really, really fun game. I really enjoyed my time with this one. I'm a huge Samurai Jack fan. I was so happy when Adult Swim brought this series back and gave it an ending. It was so good. And the video game is top-notch as well. As you guys can see here, it's kind of a hack and slash platformer, and it's got a pretty good storyline, and actually kind of wraps some things up towards the end of the series. And what happens after this show you see on Adult Swim, it's actually really well done. I like this one a lot. and it's not that expensive still. You guys can still find a copy of this for relatively cheap. Next up is another Rick and Morty game, this time on mobile devices, called Pocket Mortys. Now this is kind of like a Pokemon spoof or spin-off or gachapon kind of thing, where you collect all these different characters from the Rick and Morty universe. They're in the show, and then all of a sudden you can get them on here. They keep adding to them every time there's a new Morty or a new Rick or a new character in general. You can find them in Pocket Mortys and then battle them against each other. It's kind of like a fun little time waster. It's not too in-depth, it's not that special, but it is kind of fun.
Get up. It's a free game.
Next up is 2017's Battle Chef Brigade. Now this is a really interesting combination of styles of games. This is like a combination of like a beat 'em up with a puzzle game with like cooking elements. It's crazy. Then this is kind of what these guys are known for, these mashups of genres, kind of putting things you never like thought they'd go together, and it's kind of fun. I actually kind of like this game. It's on Switch, PC, PS4, and it's just kind of a fun little throwaway game. I play it every now and then, and it's, like I said, it's free to play, and you can't beat that.
Who's ready to cloak their options? Sublime.
Next up is 2017's Rain World, and this came out on the PS4, Switch, and Windows, and this is an awesome action platforming game. It really reminds me a lot of like a Limbo or Inside, or maybe even like a Celeste. It's really cool, hand-drawn graphical styles, awesome. The platforming is really sharp in this one. I really love the art style here, and like I said, it's challenging. It's really hard. It's fun. This one will give you a challenge, and it's got a pretty decent storyline to go with it. This one is one I actually highly recommend you guys check out, and you may not have known this was published by Adult Swim Games.
Now updated with dangerous new gameplay modes.
Next up is 2018's Pool Panic, which was released on the Nintendo Switch and on Windows. And this is like a puzzle action adventure game all mixed in with like a sports pool game. And it's actually a really cool concept. So you basically battle and stuff. It's like, you know, you hit pool balls into cues, but it's way more than that. It's like an adventure game. You go all over this map. It's like an open world, overworld. But all the time being, you just point and shoot with the pool stick. It's actually a really cool, novel concept. It kind of reminds me of like a Cuphead kind of graphic style. And that hand-drawn cartoony style. It's an interesting little game, and one that's definitely worth checking out.
A mouse hole, a birthday candle hat, a nightclub, a swampies, Russian dolls, and all sorts of other unexpected characters and scenarios that you'll zombies! Look out! Oh, sorry. Pool Panic.
Next up is Duck Game, which originally came out for the Ouya, believe it or not, in 2014, but has since recently been ported to the PS4, Switch, and other systems, as well as PC. And as you guys can see here, it's kind of like this action platformer, run and gun, shoot 'em up kind of game. Kind of reminds me of like a Mutant Mudds kind of style, mixed with maybe a little bit of like Celeste type gameplay. And it's really fun. It's actually pretty addicting here with the shooting and the platforming. And I love the little sprites of the ducks. It's actually pretty cool. This game is an interesting little game as well. It's pretty cheap right now. I believe Limited Run did a physical version of this on Switch as well as PS4. So if you're looking for a Switch game you can pick up physically, I highly recommend this one. If not, you guys can also pick it up digitally on the storefront, probably much cheaper.
Said quacking.
Are you sure? I don't think I...
Just get to the point.
And finally on my list is 2018's Death's Gambit, which came out on PS4. And like I said, this came out on 2018, and it is awesome. This is like a Metroidvania, like platforming action shooter, hack and slash kind of game. And it's awesome. I had no idea that they put out games like this from Adult Swim Publishing, but they do. And this game is freaking awesome. Like I said, it's kind of got like this RPG element to it where you level up your soldier, you level up your items. You can kind of like Metroid, you can pick up items like tanks and stuff like that, and you do in Metroid, and you're kind of working with it. There's giant boss battles in it. It's just a freaking awesome game. And again, one that looks really cool. If you're a Metroidvania fan, this is definitely one worth checking out, and one that I had no idea that Adult Swim had anything to do with, but now that I do, I really enjoy it. And while we're here, we might as well address the games that are kind of like they're Adult Swim games, but they're not actually made by Adult Swim. Of course, I'm talking about Squanch Games. So this is from the creator of Rick and Morty, Justin Roiland. He has his own game studio now called Squanch Games, and they've produced some pretty cool stuff. Like I like Trover Saves the Universe, was like a pretty much a really cool game they did. All these voices, obviously he does himself. It sounds a lot like the Rick and Morty characters. The Rick and Morty humor is on all these games. and I really like Trover Saves the Universe. But the newest one that came out just recently is High on Life, again from Squanch Games, not by Adult Swim Games, but I thought I'd just kind of mention it here because if you like those games, you probably like this one as well. It's like a first-person shooter with Rick and Morty humor in it. It's got all the voices done by Justin Roiland and the people like that from the show, and I've been playing it recently, and it's free on Game Pass as well, and it's actually really, really funny. I highly recommend giving that one a go. If you're a fan of Adult Swim, you'll probably enjoy this one as well. So there you guys go. This is all of the Adult Swim games that I have personally played. I know there's probably a handful of other ones out there, maybe more of the mobile stuff. I know they have a huge backlog of Flash games they used to have on their website that aren't available anymore. There might be some out there floating around, copies of it, but I've never played any of those. If you have, please let me know down in the comment section if any of those were any good, worth checking out, worth tracking down. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you guys subscribe for more videos like this in your sub box and smash that like button. Really do appreciate it when you guys do that. Let's try to get this video to 500 likes if possible. It'd be greatly appreciated. But until next time, guys, remember that it's always K-Mac time somewhere. Until then, guys, take it easy and peace out.
No diving in an empty pool. No diving. No diving.